Hey, it's a Browns Monday victory. Dan Labbe, Browns Victory Monday?
Yeah.
Dan Labbe, Chris Fedor. We're going to talk Browns with you for the next half hour.
It was a Sunday victory.
216-772-1373. A Sunday victory, a victory Monday.
Yes.
There, we got it all sorted out.
Nailed it.
31-10, the Browns are winners over the Pittsburgh Steelers. They beat Ben-roethlisberger for the second time in his long career. And Chris, we've talked so much, and Mike Pettin has talked so much about changing the culture.
Yeah.
That's what you got to do. You got to beat the Steelers in your stadium, and not just beat them, just run all over them, literally.
That was a Browns domination yesterday, Dan. You know, that wasn't beating the Tennessee Titans by 1 point on the road because they had to go to a backup quarterback for the entire second half. That was the Browns going into that game against Pittsburgh saying, we're better than you. And we're going to show you that we're better than you. And they went out and they did it. They beat the Steelers in every way possible. Coaching, the Browns were better. Running the ball, the Browns were better. In the trenches, the Browns were better. Covering their guys, the Browns were better. Getting guys open, the Browns were better. At quarterback, the Browns were better. In every single phase, every single aspect of that football game, the Browns dominated the Steelers.
Think about this. You go back to that second half of the first game of the season. The Browns outscored the Steelers 24-3. This game 31-10. 55-13 in the last three halves against the Pittsburgh Steelers, the team that no matter what kind of team the Steelers have, good, bad, mediocre, they always dominate the Browns. And this year, with the exception of one half, the Browns have owned them.
Yep. And you're right, Dan. And you don't change the culture by beating the Tennessee Titans or the Jacksonville Jaguars or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mean, that certainly helps. That gives you a lot of confidence. The way that you change the culture, the way that you show things are different is by making progress in your own division, taking care of business in the AFC North. And the one thing that the Browns could not afford to do yesterday was go 0-3 in the division. So now they're 1-2 in the division, and there's a reason to believe that they can be competitive with the Bengals and be competitive with Baltimore again. They've already played Baltimore tough one time. That's how you change the culture, with statement wins like this against teams in your own division.
Now, if you are watching the show, jump down in the comments, sign into your account, talk to us there, or you can call in 216-772-1373. Tell us what you thought about the Browns win Sunday. Chris, I'm looking at we're going to think big today.
Yeah.
I am looking at the NFL standings. More specifically, I'm looking at the AFC North standings, and I see the Bengals 3-1-1. I see the Ravens 4-2, and I see the Browns 3-2. In third place, with a game left against the Ravens, 2 against the Bengals. It's there for them if they want it, and they've got 3 very winnable games coming up, starting in Jacksonville this week.
There's a reason to believe, Dan.
Why not?
After that game against the Steelers, there's a reason now. There's a reason to believe that things are different, that the Browns have an offense that can go out and continue to score 20 points per game. There's a reason to believe that maybe the defense turned the corner because, again, it wasn't a backup quarterback that they went up against for a half. That was Ben-roethlisberger. That was Le'Veon Bell. That was Antonio Brown. And the Browns, for the most part, Dan, held the Steelers to 3 points in that game. You look at the final score, you see 10. But for the most part, the Browns held the Steelers' offense to 3 points. So yes, there's a reason to believe this was the kind of game that the Browns had to have to show that things were different. And they did. They showed that things are different. And how about the other thing? You talk about changing culture, Dan. When Alex Mack goes down, and that was a terribly deflating injury, and the stadium went silent, I was at home, I was like, oh my goodness, no, he's one of the guys that they cannot afford to lose this year. But you saw the team rallied around him. Everybody came out onto the field.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen that in an
Never
NFL
seen
game.
that. No. Even in the past.
I don't even see that in high school games a lot of times. It's something you don't see very often.
Yeah. That's how much Alex Mack means to this team, but that's also how much these players love playing with each other. And it shows that chemistry is there, that camaraderie is there. That was a touching moment there.
Yeah, and then you have a guy like John Greco come in. He steps up. He steps into that role. And Pittsburgh went after him. And you know what? Greco got the job done. I mean, that's enormous.
Yeah.
And he's going to be called on to do that the rest of the season.
Think about in the past, if one of the Browns' best players went down, what would have happened, what could have happened, and how we would have felt as fans.
Yeah.
We've been like, all right, well, this is where the Steelers make their run. You know,
Exactly.
This was a good start to the game, but they're not going to be able to finish this one off because of this injury to Alex Mack. This is a guy that you can't afford to lose. Well, Ray Farmer and this organization has built up depth. It's not just 1-22 or 1-28, it's 1-53. John Greco comes in, you didn't even notice that Alex Mack was out of the game. And then McQuiston. Where the heck did McQuiston come from? Who is McQuiston? And how did he get a job? But you put him in there, and he just shoved dudes aside and opened up running lanes for Ben Tate. That's again, more evidence that things are starting to be different. The Cleveland Browns have arrived.
And that's one of the things, too, with the Kyle Shanahan zone blocking scheme. It's a little more friendly to just kind of plug and play.
Yep.
Obviously, you want Alex Mack out there. You want John Greco at guard. You want Joel Bitonio at the other guard, Mitchell Schwartz and Joe Thomas kind of bookending everybody. But when somebody went down, Greco moved over, McQuiston came in, and they kept running that zone blocking scheme. It's a little more plug-and-play friendly. So, even that Kyle Shanahan gets a little bit of credit for.
Yeah.
And this offensive line, Mike Pettin called them football nerds last week, and Kyle Shanahan kind of agreed with that. And you're seeing it. They're smart. They're talented. They can come in and play wherever they need to play. They know what they need to do. This is a great offensive line.
Yeah.
I think we can use the word great for this offensive line.
It's one of the best in the NFL. There are so many quarterbacks around the league that would love to play behind this offensive line. There are so many running backs in the league, maybe more talented than Ben Tate, that would love to play behind this offensive line. I mean, Ben Tate at times, Dan, isn't getting touched until he's 4 yards downfield. Brian Hoyer has time and more time and more time to hit these big plays down the field to Jordan Cameron and Taylor Gabriel and Miles Austin. It's the foundation of this team. It's how they decided to build this thing. And teams in the past have done that. If you remember the New York Jets when they were going to the playoffs with Mark Sanchez as the quarterback, it wasn't all about Mark Sanchez. It was a lot about the defense and the strong offensive line continuing to give Sanchez a chance and continuing to give that running game a chance. And this Browns offensive line, Dan, you say that it's great. I'll put it up against any offensive line in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
The only one that I can think of that's playing at the same kind of level is the Dallas Cowboys.
Another thing about this football team, Chris, you look at the guys that have stepped up. You've got a football team where neither of your first-round draft picks are doing anything.
Yep.
Your top first-round pick can barely get on the field. Your other first-round pick isn't playing. He's your backup quarterback. Obviously, your second-round pick, very good. Your third-round pick was benched yesterday. He wasn't even active.
Right.
Yet you're getting guys like Isaiah Crowell stepping up and making plays. You're getting guys like Kawan Williams, who unfortunately left the game yesterday. He's stepping up, making plays. You're getting these undrafted guys. You're getting these guys that you've kind of found on the scrap heap. They're stepping into these roles. Taylor Gabriel.
Yep.
Who knew who Taylor Gabriel was before preseason started? Even during preseason, who knew who Taylor Gabriel was? And this guy's making all kinds of catches.
And Dan, you know what? It's two things. Obviously, it's talent evaluation. It seems like Ray Farmer has a plan in place. He went out and he executed that plan this offseason. He knows what he's looking for in his particular players, and he's got an eye for talent. That goes without saying. The other thing, it's coaching. It's coaching. You've got a guy like Kyle Shanahan who is maximizing the talent that he has. And we haven't always had that here in Cleveland. The last time that I can really think of when that was the case offensively, 2007 probably, when Rob Chudzinski took a guy like Derek Anderson and helped him get to the Pro Bowl. We're talking about Kyle Shanahan doing this with Ben Tate, Isaiah Crowell, like you said, Taylor Gabriel, Andrew Hawkins, guys that some teams, they didn't want any part of. And that's what Kyle Shanahan does, and that's one of the reasons why he was such an important hire. And people were frustrated in the preseason because they didn't like the look of the offense, and they were worried about the 19-word play calls, and maybe they would have been a little bit too complex for Brian Hoyer and Johnny Manziel. But Kyle Shanahan has been the MVP of the Cleveland Browns, in my opinion, through the first 5 games. The fact that they're scoring 26 points per game is a lot about his scheme and his design, it's keeping teams off balance. They have no clue what's coming. Yesterday, Dan, the Steelers, the mighty Pittsburgh Steelers and the mighty Dick LeBeau, arguably one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL, he looked befuddled.
Yeah.
He had no clue what was coming. It's the misdirection, it's the play action, it's the running game, but it's all Kyle Shanahan's design. He's got people perplexed right now.
And this was a big test for Kyle Shanahan and this team, and for Brian Hoyer, because this was the first time we were really going to get a chance to see a guy like Dick LeBeau get a second look at the Browns. And not a second look like 15 weeks later, a second look 5 weeks later. And we weren't sure what to expect. We haven't seen Brian Hoyer go against a team for a second time yet. We haven't seen Kyle Shanahan with this team go against a team for a second time. And they responded. They dominated this football game, and Dick LeBeau knew what was coming. And frankly, this is why Brian Hoyer is starting. What the Browns saw in Hoyer is a guy that they could put in there, could pilot this offense. Maybe he's not going to single-handedly win you games, but they saw a guy versus Johnny Manziel who probably wasn't ready to do this. A guy who could step in, do what he needs to do, get rid of the football, make the right decisions, make the smart decisions. That's why they chose Brian Hoyer to start, and that's why he's performing well in this offense.
And the other thing that I like about Kyle Shanahan, and you mentioned it, same thing with Brian Hoyer, both guys understand what this offense is all about. Both guys understand the strength of the team and the team's identity. And what is it? It's running the football. Yep. And they know that everything that they do in the passing game, for the most part, comes off of that running game. It's the play-action fake. It's the misdirection. It's the linebackers and the safeties having to come up to the line of scrimmage because they're so worried about Ben Tate and Isaiah Crowell. And the minute that the defensive player makes a misstep, and it happened a few times yesterday. Troy Polamalu was a guy that the Browns continued to attack over and over and over again. They used his aggressiveness against him. Kudos to Brian Hoyer. When the defense made a bad step, Brian Hoyer attacked that, and he made the throws. But again, the reason why those throws were there to be made, I think, was because of the scheme and because the Browns did not go away from who they are and what they want to do, which is run the football.
Yeah, and again, that's what Brian Hoyer is here to do. When the opportunity is there to make a throw, go make it.
And
you don't want him throwing 50 times a game.
You're right.
But when the opportunity's there, make that throw.
And guess what? And he did. And not every quarterback in the NFL is going to make those throws.
Not every quarterback that we've seen in Cleveland can make those throws.
Brandon Whedon wasn't going to make those throws.
He would have put the ball. Okay, so Brian Hoyer underthrew Jordan Cameron on that first ball to him. Whedon puts that ball 5 rows deep. So
Colt McCoy puts that one into the turf.
Exactly.
It doesn't get there. You're absolutely right. So yes, there were receivers running free, and there was about 5 yards of separation a couple of different times. But Dan, Ben-Roethlisberger had some opportunities downfield yesterday too. He had some open receivers. He had some shots against the Browns defense. He didn't make the throws, did he?
Nope.
No, Brian Hoyer did. And that's what he's done in the first 5 games.
And everything's going the Browns' way this season, too. They're getting the penalties called that are keeping them in games. Go back to that Tennessee game. I'm not saying that those weren't penalties. I'm not saying that the refs gave the Browns gifts, but Tennessee made those mistakes and gave the Browns opportunities. Negated the muffed punt, negated the first interception by Hoyer. Yesterday, have you ever seen a field goal attempt go like that?
No.
I think everyone in the press box at first thought it was a fake.
I
but
thought
it wasn't.
It was too.
It was. I don't know exactly what happened, if he stuck his foot in the turf or what, but how many times does that happen? You don't see field goals not work because of that stuff, but it's going the Browns' way right now.
When you see an opponent in the NFL line up for like a 35 to 40-yard field goal, you feel like, okay, that's going in.
They're getting 3. There's no way they're missing that.
These are NFL kickers. That thing's going in. So Pittsburgh lines up for that field goal. I go to my refrigerator. I grab a Coke Zero. I'm like, whatever. I'm just going to come back, and they're going to have 6 points on the board. No problem. I come back, and I'm like, what happened? Like, seriously. So I
still don't know what happened.
I hit rewind, and the announcers are still trying to figure out what the heck happened. They had no clue. They had to go to 4 or 5 different replays to figure out that it wasn't a great hold or whatever happened on the play.
Even the Buster screen interception was a situation that kind of went the Browns' way. I don't know that the first look I got at that, it didn't look like he got the ball before it bounced.
Right.
But again, inconclusive evidence. everything kind of going the Browns' way right now.
Sure, and that's what you need sometimes. Yeah, a lot of it's talent, and a lot of it's scheme, and a lot of it's coming up and making the big plays at the right time. A lot of it's luck, too.
Yep.
You have to get lucky in the NFL. The ball has to bounce your way, and so far it has in the first 5.
When everyone is so even, as the NFL has tried to make everyone, you're right. You got to get some luck.
Right.
And look, they won 31-10 yesterday.
Yeah.
Obviously, they played incredibly well. Motley Brown saying he's tired of reading comments stating that the Browns beat a not-so-good Steelers team. I'm not sure he's seen that. But then he says, what kind of Browns team has Roethlisberger and the Steelers dominated over the last few years? You're right, a bad Browns team.
Yeah.
Culture change, that's what you're going for. All right, a couple things we need to get to. First is game balls. Go for it.
Yeah, all right. First one I'm going to give out to Paul Kruger. You know, if you look at the box score, you're not going to see a huge impact from Kruger. He doesn't have the big-time tackles. He doesn't have the tackles for loss or the sacks. But he has become, Dan, one of the spokesperson, is that right? Spokesperson?
Sure.
One of the spokespeople? One of the people that speak for the defense?
There you go.
How about that? One of the leaders of the defense. And my man took a shot just so he could play in yesterday's game against the Steelers. I think he understands his importance to this defense. He obviously understood the importance of the game. He wanted a chance to beat Pittsburgh. He came to the Browns at a time that free agents weren't really coming here to Cleveland, and he took a lot of money. He left Baltimore to come here to Cleveland because he felt like the Browns were putting something in place that was going to be sustainable. And he could have easily sat that one out yesterday, but he tried to fight through it. He clearly was less than 100%, but his presence out there, I think, changed what the Browns were able to do defensively.
Both he and Joe Hayden playing injured yesterday. And again, Hayden has struggled, but good for him getting out there. The team needed him out there. And by the way, speaking of Paul Kruger getting paid, Alex Mack, remember, held out. Well, didn't hold out, but went through restricted free agency this offseason. Don't criticize NFL players who want to get paid when it's their opportunity because you see yesterday why they need to do that. Sometimes you get one shot at a big NFL contract. You got to take that opportunity. So,
and remember
all that criticism of Alex Mack, I think you see yesterday why he goes through that process and tries to get every single cent that he can out of it.
And there was so much criticism, too, because remember at the time, it's like, oh, you want to go to Jacksonville, Alex? Then you go to Jacksonville, and then you'll suck for years. Go ahead, Alex. We don't need you. And then it turns out that Alex Mack really does want to stay in Cleveland, and it's like, oh, okay.
Forget all that stuff.
Forget that stuff that I said, Alex. I take it all back.
So speaking of Mack, my first game ball goes to John Greco. Again, that plug and play, next man up, moves from guard to center. Pittsburgh attacks him. And there were a few plays yesterday where you could look and see John Greco came through, blocked the guy he needed to block, opened up a hole in the running game, didn't make a mistake snapping the football. Yeah. Easier said than done if you haven't played center all year. So John Greco gets one of my game balls for stepping in for the injured Alex Mack, and he's probably going to have to do that the rest of the season.
Next man up.
Next man up.
So many teams around the NFL, when a big-time player goes down, Dan, they just hang their head and they say, you know what? Oh, boy, it's just not going to go our way today. And then the things continue to pile. I think Des Bryant said it yesterday about the Cowboys, and they had that big win against Seattle, but he said, in the past, when things wouldn't go our way, we hung our head. And I think to some degree in the past, when things didn't go the Browns' way, they hung their head. They kind of gave in a little bit too soon, but they're not. Another example of a culture change, and that starts at the top, obviously, but it filters through the entire organization, and a lot of it has to do with Mike Pettin. His motto is the same, and it's cliche, and every coach talks about it, but it's next man up.
Yep.
Okay, so Alex Mack went down. John, you're up. You take the place of Alex Mack. You do your job. We don't want you to do anything more than your job, and just take care of business. And he did yesterday.
And more importantly, McQuiston, you step in and fill in for John Greco.
I still don't know who that is.
All right, I'm gonna give out game ball number 2. It's a shared game ball. Ben Tate, of course, and also his running mate, Isaiah Crowell. Although I'll say this about you, Crow. You had an opportunity yesterday. Terrence West was benched. You have moved. All signs point to you moving ahead of Terrence West, and this regime souring a little bit on West. Hold on to the football, man. Come on, Crow. Take those pitches. Don't put them on the ground. Don't fumble, even when you're up big. You're number 2 right now. You're going to have a chance to be number 1 when Ben Tate gets hurt again. Don't screw that up. But you still get to share a game ball with Tate.
And I think that's so right, too. If you're giving the grades out because you want to give grades to every single aspect of the team, if I give grades out to the Browns running game, that was an A performance. Again, everything started with that running game, and the Steelers were so focused on trying to slow down Ben Tate and Crowell because they saw what the Browns running game was capable of in week 1, and they committed so many bodies that it left guys free. It left Jim Dre open, left Jordan Cameron open. So when your foundation of your offense is the running game, and the defense knows it's coming, everybody knows that the Cleveland Browns want to run the football. Pittsburgh knew that going into the game yesterday, and the Browns still have as much success as they did yesterday against the Steelers when everybody knew it was coming. That speaks to Ben Tate, that speaks to the offensive line, and that speaks to Crowell. Crowell just comes in, Dan, and he gives a different kind of energy and a different kind of burst.
Yeah, I still believe he's a better running back than Ben Tate. I think he's a guy that can be a big-time, big-play running back. He's got to show he can do it for 25, 30 carries a game. That's a big test.
Yep.
But this guy is something else. He's got the ability. Every time he touches the football, wherever he is, he can go get 6.
Yeah. Ben's a bruiser. He's a guy that's going to push the pile. He's going to fall forward. He's going to pick up yards that sometimes aren't necessarily there because he's breaking tackles and things like that. Crowell's the home run hitter. He sees just a little bit of daylight. He hits it, and boom, he's through.
Next game ball.
Jordan Cameron, for me, everybody has been wondering, where is Jordan Cameron? This was supposed to be Jordan Cameron's breakout season. Obviously, he was dealing with the shoulder injury, so tough to be too critical of a guy in the first 4 games when he's less than 100%. But yesterday, he made big-time plays, and he made some tough catches, too. That's the other thing. Now, he had a few drops here and there. He had that one where the ball got dislodged from him near the goal line. But this is a guy who can stretch the field. He's a mismatch out there, Dan. He's too big for cornerbacks, but he's too fast for linebackers. And that kind of versatility that we saw yesterday against the Steelers all of a sudden puts another thought into the mind of the next opponent. I mean, talk about Jacksonville, Tampa Bay, Oakland, Cincinnati. Now all of a sudden they're like, oh, wait a minute. First we had to deal with Ben Tate. Then we had to deal with Isaiah Crowell. We got to deal with this big bruising offensive line, one of the best in the NFL. Now we got this big dude to deal with too. Now we got 6'5" athleticism on the outside there with Jordan Cameron. It's just something else that the Browns can put into this offense and allow them to continue to be a 20-point-per-game team.
All right, before your last game ball, I want to get to a comment. Someone saying, what's up with Terrence West? Mike Penton said yesterday it was a kind of cleaning up little things that he needs to do, and also seemed to indicate that maybe West didn't have the best week at practice. And again, he's a guy that came in as your number 2 back, and frankly, Isaiah Crowell has surpassed him pretty quickly.
I think the other thing, Dan, really quick before moving on, the Browns have talked this entire offseason about play like a Brown. And I still don't necessarily know what that means, but the Browns know what that means inside the walls in Berea. And I sense that there's a little bit of an attitude issue with Terrence West, feeling like, wait a minute, I should be getting the ball more than this Ben Tate guy. Did you not see me? I rushed for 100 yards against the Steelers when Tate went out. Did you see what I did in the next game against New Orleans when Ben Tate wasn't there? I don't think he was happy because he had to take a step back, and I think the Browns wanted to correct that attitude really quick, saying, hey, man, it's not about you. It's about the team.
All right, quickly, last game ball.
Last game ball for me is going to go to Kyle Shanahan. I thought he called his best game as a member of the Cleveland Browns, and you talk about a guy who's just maximizing talent. He doesn't have a ton of talent to work with, and he's getting the most out of it. And that's what an offensive coordinator has to do. And he's finding a way to do it. He's finding a way to get his receivers open, helping them out. He's finding a way to keep his quarterback, Brian Hoyer, comfortable and giving him passing windows. If you go back to Robert Griffin III's rookie season in Washington, and when he went down, Kirk Cousins took over, and the offense looked very, very similar. It didn't have the run element to it in Washington, but it looked similar. Guys were still getting open. Kyle Shanahan was still designing plays to help out whoever that quarterback was, and that's what he's doing here with Brian Hoyer. He's trying to make things as easy as possible on Brian Hoyer and maximize the talent around this team, and that is the mark of a great offensive coordinator.
My last game ball is going to go to my new favorite Browns fan.
Okay.
That I saw yesterday from the press box,
Not
sitting
Bone
a couple
Lady,
rows.
is it?
No, it's not Bone Lady.
Okay.
I've never seen this guy. This guy should be the new Browns super fan. Let's check out the video. This guy gets game ball number 3 for me. Look at this guy. Oh, look at him. He is excited. He's got to pull up his pants a little bit. He's feeling good. I could watch that all day. Feeling real good about the Browns. That was right after Ben Tate's touchdown. Can we watch that one more time?
Look at that.
Can we run that there? Oh, look at him. Look at the folks around him too. Those kids behind him, they learned some life lessons during this moment yesterday. Just really magical. That's game ball number 3 for that guy.
Nobody else was standing there, Dan.
No, that's all
He
right.
was the only one.
He dances to his own music.
Look at that.
Right up here.
It was the little things, too. It's like me in my car when I do little
Yeah.
circles, big circles, because you're
And
so
you know
restricted.
what? Credit to him, too, for overcoming the adversity of the pants falling down a little bit. Stops,
just
pulls
like-
them up,
All right.
makes the necessary adjustments. All right,
Let
guess
me
what
show
time it
the
is.
poise of Brian Hoyer.
Guess what time it is.
Are we
Speaking
doing
of
this
the
again?
poise of Brian Hoyer,
Oh, boy.
up it comes.
Oh, boy.
Look at that.
Oh, boy.
Look at that. I don't know how well you can see this. There it is.
Yeah.
All right. So, as we know, Mr. Fedor over here has been very hard on Brian Hoyer.
Yeah.
So I came up with this little gimmick. Over there, it's got
Oh, look.
all its wheels.
Different colored wheels.
These are the special cars. So this Brian Hoyer train to see how you're feeling about our guy, Mr. Hoyer,
Yeah.
St. Ignatius grad.
There he is.
And so here's Fedor last week and the last 2 weeks. He didn't
Happy
move himself
birthday,
up.
Brian.
We got Johnny. Oh yeah, happy birthday.
It's his birthday.
Let's get him a little cake here. There you go, a little cake. Those are some candles.
He's 3 today.
Do some multiplication there.
Oh, 3 for the 3 wins.
Yeah, there you go.
Attaboy.
There you go. So we got Johnny. You didn't hear much from Johnny yesterday, but I think
Right.
Johnny's feeling good about winning.
Oh, yeah.
Now, way up here driving the train is Brian Hoyer's agent, and he's just got money.
His butt's kind of on fire from the steam, but that's
Yeah,
okay.
He's just got money in both hands. Every time Brian Hoyer completes a pass to Jordan Cameron, he's got money. Those are supposed to be dollar signs.
That's a cent.
He's got a big
Got it.
smile on his
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
face, kind of crooked. That's all right. So that's Brian Hoyer's agent. He's feeling real good about things. Of course, we got Hoyer driving everything here.
Yeah.
Look at him there, just
Yeah.
running that offense, doing
Right.
what he needs to do.
Yeah.
Him and Taylor Gabriel, Travis Benjamin. All right, where are you? Come
All
on.
right. Well, I don't want to dirty my fingers. Your fingers are already dirty, so you can erase my guy.
Ah. All right. So Fedor is not there
No.
anymore. I mean, there's no way you're moving back.
I'm not moving back. I can't move back.
He's
3
coming.
and 2.
He's coming, Johnny.
Look, I mean, that was a win against the Pittsburgh Steelers. 31-10. Let that sink in. Think about how many times the Browns have gone into a game against the Steelers and we didn't have a good feeling leaving that one. 31-10, that was a total domination, and he was the starting quarterback for the game. So to me, that was an A performance. You can look at the completion percentage, you can look at the fact that he only threw 1 touchdown, but he didn't take a lot of sacks. He didn't turn the ball over. He made the big plays when the big plays were there for him to make, and that's not the same thing that you can say about all these other quarterbacks around the NFL and other quarterbacks that have played here in Cleveland. So I think there's a reason to believe that he is getting better and better and better. I can't argue. Put myself
Look at that.
1 car up.
He's coming.
I am moving
He's coming
up.
for you, Johnny.
I'm not left-handed, and that's pretty good.
That's actually better than I have drawn
Look at me.
throughout.
I got a big old
whole
smile on my
process.
face.
Look at him. There he is.
Look
Hold
at
on,
me.
we got to indicate here that this is
That's me.
where you are
1 car
on
up.
the Brian Hoyer train.
1 car up.
Moving from here to here.
Yes.
Jacksonville next week, so I don't know how much opportunity there is for movement.
Well, there's a little bit. Sure, of course you can move, even with a win against Jacksonville, as long as I'm impressed. That's my thing, Dan. If I can leave a Browns game saying I feel better about this team than I did before the game started, I'm probably going to move up, and that was my problem with the Tennessee Titans game. But I feel so much better about the Browns right now than I did about 12:55 yesterday. So move me up, and I'll say this, Dan.
Go.
I think there's a conversation to be had in the future sometime. It's not for today because it's about celebrating this win against the Steelers, which is why I wore my orange shirt today in celebration of the big win against the Steelers. I feel so happy for the Browns players in the locker room. I feel so happy for all of my friends that are Browns fans. I feel so happy for the city of Cleveland. It just feels different today on this Monday because you beat the hated Pittsburgh Steelers. You dominated the Pittsburgh Steelers. So in the future, Dan, I think there's a conversation to be had about Brian Hoyer's long-term value and the kind of money that you might have to give the guy. And I still have some questions about that moving forward. But the bottom line is, based on what I've seen in the first 5 games, I feel like because of the running game, because of the offensive line, and because of Brian Hoyer, and because of the coaching, the Browns are going to have a chance to win every single Sunday.
How about that? And, by the way, they're essentially trading for Josh Gordon after 10 games.
Think about that.
It's got to make you feel good. Also, there's an eraser on the end of these marks.
Still use your fingers.
There's an eraser. 2 of them. There's 2 erasers, and I just used my finger to erase things. I could have just...
Look at how happy.
Look how clean that is, too.
Joe Linta over here is so happy.
He's feeling good. Every touchdown pass, he's sending... He's waiting for that blank check to come from Ray Farmer.
Yes.
All right, Brian Hoyer train. Chris Fedor moves up.
This is so everybody knows, this is a short-term train. This isn't about the big picture,
no. We're judging Brian Hoyer on the now. We're not judging him 5 years from now.
That's right.
We're judging him on what our expectations were this year.
Right.
And whether he's gotten it done.
Right. How many times in the past, Dan, have we been able to say, we've got a quarterback that gives us a chance to win every single week? The last time I was able to say that was 2007 with Derek Anderson.
Pretty much.
He was a Pro Bowler that year. That's how good Brian Hoyer is playing. So kudos to him. Continues to prove me wrong.
In honor of your birthday, Mr. Hoyer, I want to end things with our dancing Browns fan.
Let me toast to you. Can I toast to him?
Yes, do a toast.
Toast to Brian Hoyer. To Brian Hoyer.
We'll have your little birthday dance here. There he is. Happy birthday, Brian. Thanks for making this guy's day. Yeah, hold on. Okay, there you go. Now he's dancing again. Thanks for making this guy's day. Thanks for making Browns fans' days. That's it. Chris Fedor, Dan Labbe. We're going to do this every single Monday next week in Jacksonville. The Browns trying to win another game. Their third win in a row. They can go 5-0 in the stretch of 5 games that we talked about.
Their next 3
opponents.
opponents.
The Tennessee game.
Next 3 opponents, 1-16.
It's a trap game. We'll see if the Browns can win it next week.
Are they going to get distracted by the pool?
They might.
Is that what it is?
They might. Jacksonville's nice.
The Browns are going to be 6-2.
I will try not to get eaten by a gator.
6-2. Think about that. The Browns are going to be 6-2 going into that Thursday night.
And 2 games away from Josh Gordon. Yep. All right, that'll do it. As always, thanks for watching.